The spirit of innovation is deeply ingrained in America, and Google is helping Americans innovate in ways both big and small. The Department of Defense is working with Google to help secure America's digital defense systems, from establishing cloud-based zero-trust solutions to deploying the latest AI technology. This is a new era of American innovation. Find out more at g.co/American innovation.
At Sierra, discover great deals on top brand workout gear, like high-quality walking shoes, which might lead to another discovery.
40,000 steps, baby. Who's on top now, Karen?
You've taken the office step challenge a step too far. Don't worry, though. Sierra also has yoga gear. It might be a good place to find your zen. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
Hello, hello. Welcome back to Peak Northwest, an outdoors and travel podcast by the Oregonian and Oregon Live, dedicated to the adventure and exploration of our beautiful Pacific Northwest. I'm Jamie Hale.
And I'm Kiara Profena. Together we take you to some of the most beautiful and interesting destinations in our region, discussing where to go, what to do, and places to see. And today we're talking about something that may seem a little out of date at this point, but it just so happens to be the perfect time for spring snow sports at Mount Bachelor.
Mount Bachelor. So this is your first time at Mount Bachelor.
Yes, this was actually one of the places in Oregon I've been wanting to go for a while. It's like this massive ski resort, and it's like one of the biggest in the Pacific Northwest. So it's known for being a pretty cool place. I don't know. Have you been in that area?
I mean, yeah. Last time I was at Mount Bachelor, I was doing sled dog riding, dog sledding, I think is what you call it, which was very cool, but not like skiing. You know, I got some pictures of a person who was doing, I think, some like adaptive skiing up there, but like I haven't been on the slopes of Mount Bachelor since I was but a child. And a story we've recounted in the podcast, I think many times before, my failed ski lesson as a child that I have not tried to go skiing since. We don't have to get back into that. This isn't about me. This is about you and your experience in Mount Bachelor. And before we dive into it, I do want to just, like, you said it's like a place in Oregon you've wanted to visit. What was like your impression of Mount Bachelor before you went there?
I think I've just heard so many things about it as like a ski resort. It's known for being like massive, and it's got like a lot of cool features that are pretty unique in Oregon. One of the most interesting things is that it's like a 360 mountain. So I knew this like going into that trip, that once you get to the top of the mountain, you can basically go down in any direction. Which is not very common for ski resorts. Usually you just get like the face of the mountain, one section of it, and then there's one base. There's actually like a couple bases. They don't wrap all the way around as far as I'm aware, but the whole backside is just like these really intense like black diamond runs that are going like straight down, shooting into like bowls and tree runs. So it's kind of known for being more of a harder mountain, especially if you're going on those backsides.
So you heard that and you're like, sign me up, let's go.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm like at that point where I can just bomb down a black diamond at any point, but I'm definitely like in that intermediate, like wanting to work on black diamonds. So I'm pretty comfortable like getting down most black diamonds, single black diamonds, because there's 2 levels to those. You can have double black diamonds, which are a lot of the ones on Mount Bachelor are double blacks. So those would be a little bit above my skill level, but I am trying to work on getting comfortable on black diamonds. That's like my goal for the next couple seasons, I would say.
So you're going there. You went there when? What was the time frame?
So I went there April 6th. That was a Sunday, and it was like pretty standard spring skiing. Mount Bachelor actually has like a really long open season. I think it's like 6 months. So there's a lot of spring skiing, like tourism and travel that happens in that area. So it actually was not super busy, which I was surprised. I thought it would be a lot more packed, especially on a Sunday, but it was pretty open, and there was a lot of terrain open as well, which I was surprised to see.
Well, this has been like a pretty good snow year for, I mean, the Cascades as a whole. I imagine, as a result, Mount Bachelor too. What can you tell us about like what the snow year has been like?
Yeah, it has been a really, really snowy year this year. I know I talked about it a little bit at Mount Hood. They had a really snowy year as well. So this year, they had about 430 inches of snow, and they were one of the snowiest resorts in North America, which is really cool, especially considering Mount Bachelor's kind of a shorter mountain. Mount Hood's like our big, tall mountain, and then Mount Bachelor is just around 9,000 feet of elevation, so it's really kind of short, but when it's in the high desert, it gives it a little more height. So it's pretty impressive that it's able to get so much snow, and that's kind of just like the thing about being in the Pacific Northwest. There's very unique and specific conditions.
Because I feel like Mount Bachelor, it's more in the desert, right?
Right.
I mean, I imagine when I think about Mount Hood, and gosh, I don't know about the geology or like the weather of it all exactly, but I imagine Mount Hood gets more of that wet moisture coming out of the Willamette Valley. And I think about the high desert as getting sort of more powdery snow more frequently, or like less rain in general.
It kind of is still pretty wet. I think that might be the case. I'm not like an expert on this by any means, but I do know in the Pacific Northwest, a lot of the snow just tends to be very heavy and damp. There's like some terms that get thrown around a lot, cascade concrete. I hear that a lot about like how heavy and dense the snow can be. And a lot of people say like, oh, if you can snowboard or ski in the Pacific Northwest, you can do it anywhere.
Dang, I didn't know we had such a reputation.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that until like I started looking into it. Like I feel like especially at Mount Hood, I haven't really noticed it being much more of a challenge, but I definitely noticed that challenge at Mount Bachelor. And it could just be, it's like more than likely a combination of factors, but a lot of it comes down to conditions and the weather and when it snowed last. So a lot to think about there.
Because you're used to skiing more in the Rockies. That's where you grew up, right?
Yeah.
So there's no like fun little phrase about like Rocky Mountain snow.
Not that I'm aware of. The Rockies are kind of like that standard of like most of like the biggest ski resorts are kind of in that area, and it's more of a drier climate, so powder days there are like very different from a powder day in the Pacific Northwest. And the more I go, the more I realize that there's like a lot that you can change between resorts and between areas in North America. So that's been really cool to kind of dive into and figure out. So this like concrete snow is characterized by like the rain particularly. So after it snows, a lot of time it'll rain, and that just creates this like really heavy snow, or it'll just like sleet, and it'll be really like sticky, not like this dry powder that you imagine. One thing I noticed is it's great for making snowballs. Got into that on the mountain.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Throwing cascade concrete snowballs at each other.
They're actually,
brutal.
Yeah, they're really hard. Well, like I always have struggled with making snowballs. I'm like, is it me? No, I think it's the snow, because like grabbing like a handful of this cascade concrete is like the perfect texture, the perfect kind of like material to make like a really gnarly snowball.
Who were you throwing snowballs at?
Okay, so I went with my partner. He's a big skier. I've talked about him a little bit before, but he's also been really wanting to go to Mount Bachelor. So we went together, and it was good because it kind of gave us a bit of a different levels of experience. He's definitely in that expert zone. He will go on black diamonds all day. Although he did not do that this time, considering he was with me. And you really want to go with a buddy, especially when you're like in these like remote areas, like the backside of Mount Bachelor, which tends to be not very inhabited by people. So
he's along with you.
Mm-hmm.
You're throwing ice at him because you're in love, and I get it. I get it. I want to know. So you talk a lot about this type of snow.
Mm-hmm.
What is it like to ski on that snow, and how is it different than what you're used to?
Yeah, it's definitely way harder. It's like when you think about like snowboarding, you kind of imagine you're kind of just like gliding through this snowpack that's like velvety and like smooth. It was not like that. It's like this sticky, choppy snow, I would describe it as. So not like the most fun for just if you're trying to vibe and like, you know, just have like a very easy day. You're definitely going to be using your strength a lot more. We only went for like half a day, and I was like so sore the next day. I was so surprised. Like you use your core so much to kind of stay upright and like absorb the shock from being on this choppy snow, because you're just kind of like bouncing up and down on top of it a little bit. And that's not everywhere. That's just like in some sections, especially close to the summit. We went all the way to the top just because we were like, oh, we have to say that we went to the top. So we were lucky it was open too. So all the way up at the top, there's like a few different ways you can get down. One of the ways was like this big groomed long blue, and that was really fun. It was like super smooth, not a lot of sticky snow there. When they groom the snow, that tends to help a lot and create those better conditions. But on these like other sections, especially if you want to go through like trees and, you know, have more obstacles to deal with, that's where the snow becomes a little bit less touched by mankind, and it's a little more choppy, a little bit more like icy and crunchy is how I would describe it.
It sounds like you're kind of, you know, maybe fighting with it is maybe not the right phrasing.
A little bit, yeah. You're definitely trying to hold your control a lot harder than it would be if you were just, you know, in a much better conditions or in like a much powdery day. And totally dependent on weather, but this kind of seems to be characteristic of more Pacific Northwest days, especially when it's like spring and it's not like just, you know, pouring buckets of snow anymore. It's more like sleeting, or it's raining and then it's snowing. So this seems to be more of the case, especially in the springtime.
So the Cascade Mountains make you work for it.
Yes.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. So maybe not one of the best places for beginners. There definitely is beginner terrain. There is like some places you can go, but I would say the majority of the mountain is like, okay, you're intermediate, expert level. You really want to like up your skills and get better, maybe in other climates or other areas. So more of like a practice session for what you're heading into in other locations.
So this is your first time at Mount Bachelor. It sounds like you enjoyed the experience, although maybe it was a little bit more work than you're used to.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, are you like itching to go back, or are you like, okay, I've done it?
I think it's like a combination of both. I think the thing is, being that Mount Bachelor was like a 3.5 hour drive from me, I don't know if I would be like necessarily planning any major trips back there unless I am very sure of what the weather is going to be like. It's kind of really dependent on weather, and that's one of the things I knew about Mount Bachelor going into it, is that you want to go on days when it's like just snowed and more of the lifts are going to be open, because they tend to not open up the entire mountain unless, you know, they get a lot of snow or they get really great conditions. So you kind of have to hold out for that. So it's kind of like a little bit of a bait and switch. You don't know what you're getting, and maybe it's not the best to like plan this big massive trip out there, but if you have like the flexibility to go out there just for a couple days and, you know, be in the area, you have other plans. If it works out, then that's when I would recommend it.
Mm-hmm. Which is something you did, right? Because Mount Bachelor was like obviously a big highlight and was something you wanted to do, but you were there for some other things as well.
Yes. So I went and I explored Bend and Sunriver on this trip. So I was there for a couple days and I got to do a few different cool things. So I was glad that, even though we didn't get to snowboard from, sun up to sundown, we still had plenty of stuff to do. We were never bored. There's a lot to do in that area, especially when you compare it to Mount Hood and Government Camp, which has like one hotel and one bar, as far as I'm aware.
There might be a couple hotels and a couple bars in Government Camp.
Yeah, that's just how I imagine it, because I drive through that one street and it just looks pretty desolate. So
yeah,
it's, great for going to Mount Hood, but I really think that, especially if you're going with a group of people or you're going with your family and you have more of like a mix of people, maybe people who don't like skiing or snowboarding and they just want to hang out, I feel like it's kind of that best case scenario where there's so much to do so close to the area that you can kind of like still have a great time regardless of if you end up having like a super great day on the mountain.
This is your first time in Bend also?
No, so I've been to Bend once before, a few years ago, just for like honestly, it was like less than a day. I was just driving through to Madras actually for a different assignment, and I met one of my friends in Bend. She was interning at the Bend Bulletin, and
cool.
Yeah, we were both like in our summer internships, and that was when I was interning for like a different publication. So we were kind of like in this little phase of life together, and we just kind of explored Bend a little bit, and it was really beautiful. It was like summer. We went down to Drake Park, which is their, massive park where they have all their festivals and events, and got food there. So kind of a similar vibe when I went back this time, which I was very happy about. We got really like beautiful sunny weather the day that we were there, so it was just like this perfect environment for like walking around and exploring the town. And you'd think that like Bend is kind of, it's in the middle of nowhere. There's not much to do, but it's like a pretty poppin' town, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I definitely think so. There's a good energy in Bend. People are out there doing stuff. I've always sort of thought of Bend as a place where everyone loves to go out and do stuff during the day.
Right.
The Mount Bachelor's busy, the trails are busy. And then people come back at night and typically go to brewpubs. That's sort of like Bend's main thing is the brewpub scene. So did you find something to eat in Bend? Did you what did you think about sort of the scene there?
Yeah, I love the scene. That's exactly what we did. We came back from the mountain at like maybe like 2 p.m, and then we chilled out for a couple hours, relaxed, and then we drove out to Bend. We were staying in Sunriver, so it was like, half an hour here, half an hour there, but not bad at all. And we're not big beer people, surprisingly, unfortunately, for the location that we live in. But we went to this one like Basque bar. I think it was called bar like RBS, something like that. And it was like amazing. It was so good. They had Basque is like Spain and France region, and there were like tapas and wine and really fun cocktails, and that's like my favorite style of eating is when everybody just gets a bunch of little things and you share it.
Yeah.
Like
it's the best.
Yeah, like I get to try like so many new things. I'm like it's like girl dinner,
Yeah.
You get like little bites of things throughout the meal. So that was amazing. And then we went to a gelateria actually. So we got ice cream afterwards, Italian ice cream, which is my favorite given as I'm biased, I'm Italian. So that was awesome. I was very, very happy with that evening. And especially after like being out in the mountain for so many hours and being like so worn out, it feels so nice to just like sit down and like have a drink, have some ice cream, eat like a really good meal, and then go back to sleep at like 9 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Love that.
The combination of like being out in the elements, working hard, getting a good meal, having a warm bed is like one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
Like there's like the challenge and the reward and like the roughing it and the luxury. It's just, you can't beat that. That's so good.
And you get it in a lot of other ways though, because there's a lot of hiking in Bend, right? There's a lot more like outdoor things to do.
Hiking, mountain biking, kayaking, I mean, you name it. People are doing it in Bend.
Well, we're getting into that season, so
yes.
Maybe what's your favorite thing to do in Bend during spring, summer?
I mean, I always go to the Deschutes River Trail, which is like, there's like 4 different trails called the Deschutes River Trail, but in Bend, you can go down to the river, kind of just outside of town, and there's this great long hiking trail with a bunch of trailheads. You can just pop in, and there's a couple waterfalls you can see on the trail, sort of hike among the pine trees there. It's just a beautiful spot to get like a walk in. But I mean, there's so many things. There's so many waterfalls. I mean, you can go not too far. When it gets a little bit warmer, you can go out to the Newberry volcano.
Yes.
I lost it for a second. I caught it. The Newberry volcano, which is a great spot. There's like an obsidian hike you can do there. There's a twin caldera lakes at the top. It's so cool. But that's sort of like a later in the season thing. I mean, there's just so many spots. Drake Park, like you said.
Yeah.
Just walking around town. I love to like stay on one side of Drake Park, and there's a good brunch spot on the other. And I like just like in the morning, walking through the park over the bridge to like go eat brunch and go back. It's like a city where you can really do that.
Right.
And I love that it's set up that way.
Yeah, super walkable. That's what we found. And there's a lot of like shopping and like kind of places you can pop into, specialty stores and things like that. So I feel like what I really got out of this trip was that Bend is really great for a lot of stuff. Even if you're, in the wintertime, in the springtime, in the summertime, there's a great mix of things to do. So going into like spring, summer season, I feel like it's kind of like this peak where everything's kind of like overlapping almost. Because you've got like, you're still getting like the last little bits of skiing and snowboarding, and then, things are starting to open up. I feel like it's just now starting to get like warm enough to start to use, start dipping into water sports and things. So it's kind of like the perfect time to maybe go down there.
Yeah, I think so. Shoulder season, as they say. Always a great time. It's not too hot. It's not too cold. Things are opening. It's a perfect time to go out there. I think you're totally right. So you were in Bend, but you were staying in Sunriver.
Right.
So let's shoot over to Sunriver then. What did you think of that place?
Honestly, really cool. I totally get why it's this vacation town, as you were telling me, that there's, places that you used to go to when you were a child. There were so many like cool trails and things out there. I was really surprised by how like set up the town was. So we also went to the Sunriver Observatory, which we'll talk about a little bit more on a future episode, but that was really, really cool, really, really special. There, as we've spoken about, kind of like a dark sky-ish adjacent place. Not don't have their own title, but they do have a dark sky when you look up.
Totally. That's all you need.
So we did get to do some stargazing and like see some constellations and look at the moon through some telescopes. So that was really fun. And we didn't bike, but I'm training for a race. So we ran along those like biking trails.
Oh, cool.
And they were so beautiful. That was like incredible. I was like so surprised. And I love running through like forests and little wooded areas and seeing new things. So I really loved just kind of exploring Sunriver and seeing what was out there. Man. Yeah, it's I've not been to Sunriver since, again, I was a child. And like my fondest memories are like the video store, which I'm sure they don't have a video store in Sunriver anymore. But like horseback riding, and there's hiking, and there's trails. Like it seems like such a great little pocket if you want to get like a rental vacation home and hang out for a week or a weekend or whatever. And you are like so close to everything. Like you're only 30 minutes from Bend, so if you get bored. There's so much more to do. Like if you want to go to town or if you're missing something, there's a place nearby. So I really liked it for that reason too. Like it's kind of this mix of like you're outside of a town, but you're still close enough in case you need something. You're not super, it's not desolate or anything like that.
No. I mean, there's so much there. I mean, like you said, Bend, there's Newberry, there's so many other communities. The High Desert Museum is right down there.
Yes.
I love the High Desert Museum.
That was another place I visited for the first time.
What'd you think? Oh my God, there's so many things.
I know. It was so cool. I was there to see one of their traveling exhibitions, one of their temporary ones that was on this photographer, Frank Matsura. And that was amazing. I got to talk to some of the people there that helped create the exhibit. So it was really amazing. I'd recommend going down there. It'll be out until September, I think. And then they have a lot of other like really cool temporary exhibits, just kind of like throughout the museum in addition to their more permanent stuff. But I was really surprised by like the fact that it's like kind of like a nature center a little bit. Like they have these sea otters and birds in the back.
Those otters.
The otters were so cute. That was like
owls.
Such a highlight. Yeah, seeing the animals there. That was just like not what I expected when I thought about like a museum. So it was a very wonderful surprise to just go down there and get to hang out with some animals, walk around the trails, especially seeing as it was like such a beautiful like day and it was like sunny in the 60s, and they have like these whole like circle trails that go around like this entire lot of land behind the museum that you can kind of explore. So it's kind of like a mix of a museum nature center.
It's such a good balance of things where like, yeah, they've got some history, but they have like a lot of cultural exhibits, like you said. And they have the animals, and they have the outdoor area, and they have the animals in the outdoor areas. And there's just like, if you want to go see raptors, they have that. If you want to see turtles and like snakes, they have those. The owls are like my favorite. Those little tiny burrowing owls are like the best. Love a tiny owl. And of course the otters, my God. They have got their whole setup. God, I love this place. I always try to go to the High Desert Museum when I'm in Bend. They always have something new on and something interesting. They do such good programming there.
Yes,
such a good
absolutely.
spot.
Yeah, it was really cool to see. We got to see like one of the eagles in the back. There was like a bald eagle back there too. That was really cool. So definitely recommend for even if you have like kids too. Like kids would love that. And they had a lot of like hands-on sort of exhibits and things that you could do inside of the museum too. So a whole mix of cool stuff down there. So go to Bend, get a lot of education, outdoors stuff. Shoulder season's a great time to visit. Any other recommendations?
Boy, I feel like we've covered a lot of Bend. I mean, there's so much to do around there. I think that's the thing. If you want to spend a week just in Bend, you can do that.
Yeah.
But there's like so many little hidden gems around the area. I mean, there's like a great place where you can harvest obsidian legally. That's out there. There's, Sisters is nearby. You're not too far from like, the Cove Palisades State Park, which is really cool. And then you're getting up into Warm Springs. I mean, like you can really spend like, weeks exploring just that area. But, a couple nights in Bend or even one night there's so much you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally recommend it.
Gosh, so when are you going back?
Ooh, I feel like Bend would be really fun in the summer. My boyfriend and I have this kind of like ongoing joke where we're like, my dad would love it here. Like, we should get my dad to move here. He should move to Bend. Like, this is such like a place where we could see him living. So we're like, we're going to have to, at some point, bring my parents up and take them to Bend because I feel like it's kind of like the perfect place, They're still in Oregon. They're not, too far away, but it's kind of like this small town vibe. And there's still so much to do and such like a great community there. And that's what I'm hoping to do this summer. I'm hoping to take my parents down there. So we'll see if that happens. They're planning to come up at some point. So
it's a great Pacific Northwest tradition. People move here and then they fall in love and they say, how can I get all of my family and friends to also move here so that we can all enjoy it together?
Exactly. It'll be a little bit of a challenge, but I'll see what I can do.
Work on him. Send him the podcast.
Yes.
We'll keep giving him ideas. Well, folks, that will do it for us for today. Until next time, you can watch our videos on the Oregonians YouTube channel and view all of our travel and outdoors coverage on OregonLive.com/travel, as well as HereIsOregon.com.
Please leave us a rating or review if you enjoy the show. And if you want to support this podcast, as well as our local journalism, please consider a subscription to Oregon Live. You can find the details at OregonLive.com/podsupport. Also, if you're a fan of the show and you're interested in potentially sponsoring it, you can get in touch with our marketing people at advertise@oregonian.com. This episode of the show was produced by me, alongside Jamie Hale and Vicky Connor.
Stay safe and happy travels, everyone. Until next time, we leave you with this 10 seconds of Zen.